Part of why we are so successful and a lot of relationships don't have the level of success we have is because the man will function so much predominantly in his masculine energy all the way over here.
Yeah.
What we kind of speaking about with the feminine, consumptive, entitlement, expectation is all the way over there on that opposite end of the spectrum. And you got so much of a man's man over here, so much of a woman's woman over here. Look at this distance.
Yeah.
Look at this space as opposed to I'm masculine forward, very much so balanced feminine. You are feminine forward, very much so balanced masculine. And now we able to be in concert in so many different ways, shapes, or form. My nigga, everything is love, but that on anything I love. Yeah.
Peace, beloved.
Where's your show?
Okay.
3. Close your eyes. 3, 2. Big breath in, belly breath. Go. I knew you was gonna bullshit. I knew you was gonna bullshit. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Three, 2, go. And with that, I left her hanging. Welcome to another episode of God Is Me Again. Don't mind us when we look at the board. We still trying to lock in that actual name. And matter of fact, I kind of took her job from her. Right? 'Cause
You did take my job.
She went through a lot to get this particular episode in pocket. Also, if y'all see a little bit of blurriness on the first 2 episodes, we still working out kinks.
Yeah, if you see a little bit of blurriness on this episode, we still working out kinks.
We gonna get it right. Give us some time and patience. But y'all can still hear. Y'all can still see for the most part.
Yeah, and our angle should be beautiful.
Exactly. So bear with us. But I'll let the damsel introduce.
Welcome back to another episode of God Is Me Again. I am Candyss Love.
I'm your boy, Brickcitibuddha.
And we are God Is Me Again.
There we are.
And today we have a very, I don't know if people would think this is an exciting episode, but it's a necessary, it's a necessary episode. So I cried today.
Why you crying?
I cried while you was working. And I was in the bathroom.
Oh, okay. I forgot.
Yeah.
Tiller, right?
Yeah.
Open up with that before we go to the topic.
The fear of impermanence.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made a post on Instagram kind of just like, I guess being vulnerable and sharing how it's easier for me to teach people than it is for me to actually connect to people. To deeply connect to people, with people. And my teaching and transparency is an attempt to also connect with people, to allow myself to be seen in ways that I wouldn't, because I'm only child and I've always isolated, and I've always said how I've hidden in plain sight. So my ability to be as transparent and vulnerable with people in general or with social media is kind of like that, me trying to connect in a way that I've never been able to connect to people based on like people trauma. Mm-hmm. And kind of like a fear of people, just not knowing when they will shapeshift or how they'll change on you. And so with that, I've kind of developed the superpower of reading people, discerning people. And that has translated into me being able to do that in my work. But it started out as a trauma of being deeply afraid of people and not knowing how they would treat me. And because of that, I've never really connected to anyone on a deep level. And it was some lament present because it was just like, I'm never really connected to a person on a deep level outside of you and my mama. And then my animals, Cleo, Tummy, and Tittle. So it's just like a lot of lament present where I was like, I've never really, not necessarily I haven't given myself permission to, but there's a barrier, a resistance that kind of is fearful of doing that. And then also a resistance that...
Connecting to people?
Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't feel like this is something I need to practice doing. It just feels like something that I've acknowledged about myself. And also probably I was a recluse in other past lives.
Come on with these words.
Yeah. Doing a good job.
Let me ask you something, because I think before we go into the topic, people can relate to this. And I kind of want to pull people inside, not just your mind in some of these moments, but a lot of us in this social media age, even though we got all these tools to connect more, we the most disconnected generation probably in human history on so many different levels. So like when you in a moment, whether it's just a new person you meeting, whether we finishing with an event and everybody just vibing and people is coming up to you and introducing themselves or telling you how much they appreciate you, what's going on inside your mind?
Yeah, I wrote about that too. My whole body is overwhelmed. I spoke about how overwhelming it is to maintain relationships and how there's an admiration that I have for people who are relationship oriented, where they are instantly touchy-feely, buddy-buddy, lovey-dovey.
Kind of like me a little bit.
Yeah. You really have a beautiful relationship with people. It's like, it's just who you are. So when people come up to me, I'm just like, damn, okay. He's like, Candyss, I can't wait to meet you. I'm like, oh my God. My whole nervous system is just shot. And I wrote about how...
in the new book.
No, I just wrote this on Instagram this morning.
Okay.
I just wrote about how I kind of feel not sorry for myself, but, you know, I admire people that their bodies don't have to go through all of that just to be in relationship with somebody. So when a person comes to me and meets me, I'm regulating my body, which is why I remember Mike yesterday asked me about my memory when I'm speaking to people. I don't remember their names as soon as they tell me. And then when they speak to me, I barely remember what they even say in the conversation because my body, my nervous system is all over the place. So a lot of people have thought that I don't like them.
Right.
They think that I think people are disposable, but they don't have access to know what's going on internally that's making me so distant. Because it's hard to explain that in real time where most people function with being good at relationships.
Is it just like a visceral body response in that moment, or are there like associative thoughts and projections of what they're thinking as well? Because it sounds different than like people who have social anxiety because they're extrapolating judgment on others. It don't sound like you are feeling judgment from them. And they telling you how much they love you, so that's kind of different. I never like really heard it put like that without the social anxiety aspect of it. Yeah,
because I'm not thinking about what they're thinking at all. I don't even know what I'm thinking. I'm probably not even present.
Body.
I'm probably dissociating. For me to not remember anything that they're saying, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner. I'm just kind of not there.
So I remember you did, and shout out to 19 Keys for bringing you on the tour that he did last year. Probably your biggest speaking engagement at that point, which you did a phenomenal job on. But part of you working through the nervousness that you felt, you was preparing for it a few days ago, and then when I told you, and you kind of came to the same conclusion, like maybe I just need to be authentic and let these people know I'm nervous, right?
Yeah.
And that diffused everything for you. Is there any version of that on a micro scale in these interpersonal connections that you or people that may be listening to this that relate to you, that y'all could kind of divulge in this moment of people trying to connect to you and you going through this whole process? Is that something you feel like you could say in the moment?
In the moment.
Or should say in the moment?
So it's weird because it's like in the moment, right? When someone tells you their name, you can say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. In my mind and in my body, I want to make a person feel like I'm 100% there with them. And I've masked a personality that knows how to do that. But
how does that look?
What, the mask?
Yeah, like when you're...
Eye contact.
Okay. Even though nothing is registering.
Nothing is registering. That's kind of crazy. It's actually really crazy. It's straight eye contact. I'm giving verbal cues. I'm shaking my head. I am, depending on, some people that come up to us, they're really personable, so they may hold our hand or something like that. So I'm doing whatever it takes to make sure the person feels as if I'm with them. So and the reason that I don't say what's your name again is because I don't want them to feel like they're insignificant. There it is.
Other people's perceptions.
Yeah, I don't want them to feel insignificant or like I didn't care enough about our conversation to remember their name. Obviously, memory is memory. It has absolutely nothing to do with that in general, but that's the reason why I will go years and not know a person's name, and I will never ask them. Once they told me, I'm telling myself, remember the name, remember the name, remember the name. 5 seconds later, I've already forgotten it. But I will ask them, how do you spell your name again? Before I say, what is your name? And I will go years without knowing a person's name.
All right, this is intriguing to me. We may go a whole different direction with this conversation because this does kind of correlate to what we did put in the notes as far as mean girls, right? We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're supposed to go with this. But just kind of picking your brain on it. Like, it's one thing to say, I what's your name again? Right?
Yeah.
That's when you're already into the process.
Right.
Is there anything that could be said or done, or if a person is on the other end of somebody that may struggle with this, that they can do?
Yeah.
Like maybe just the prerequisite or the prefacing of, and I don't have a term for it, social anxiety is different. This is more so like social exhaustion, social rawness. I don't know what the term is, but maybe we'll come up with something. But to preface that conversation, because you are also in a unique position where it's often not just one person you're dealing with at a time.
Right.
When we out, people recognize us and stuff like that. But when we talking events, it's back to back people that want to talk to you, pour into you, tell you about what they got from the book, all these different things.
Yeah.
So in this moment, if I'm one of them, oh my God, Candyss, I've been waiting to meet you. I'm so nervous. Thank you for writing your book, right? What do you say to kind of lay the groundwork that this is something, being authentic, letting them in a little bit, that this is something that you're working on? What would you say to me?
Man, I feel like that's such a good question. I truly don't know.
What would you advocate me do to kind of compensate for that
makes it easier.
Person on the other end?
Because I would tell the person to tell the other person. I would tell the other person, if you were my client, I would tell you to preface the conversation with you are doing your best to be in social settings and regulate your nervous system. So
that's it.
If at any point I veer off or I don't seem present, just know that I am fully present, or I'm trying my best to be fully present. Do you mind holding my hand in a process while we speak so I can remain connected to you? That's very vulnerable, and I don't know that people are willing to be that vulnerable upon first conversation, which is an invitation to practice the vulnerability. And so if I'm speaking about myself, that is, and I'm open to vulnerability, it's just something that I've never done before.
It's the first time we had this conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. That's a great preface, that practice and maybe holding the hand. Also, probably being that it's so much going on in your system, or people that can relate to this going on in your system. You're trying to regulate your own emotion. You're trying to stay engaged. You're trying to connect after having a history of not maybe being willing or open to connecting with people. You're reading their energy,
Absolutely.
right? It may not be somebody you want to hold their hand and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that could be helpful, as we just kind of vetting this out, like, we be having our notes, we kind of going off kilter right now, is asking people to speak slow. Not like super slow, but it'd be like a over, you got a certain level of celebrity and staying to you where people are really excited to meet you. And they could kind of talk a mile a minute. You can get lost in that. So I think that could be another helpful one.
Yeah.
Asking them to just, as
slow
much as they can
down.
to just slow down.
Yeah.
What you think about that? You think that could be helpful?
I think that could be very helpful. It would help me. I think it would help me at least know that the person is present with what I'm experiencing, and allow them to be a part of it too, without it feeling like I'm dumping on them or making the conversation heavy. That should be light, which is also a reason why I think that's something that I've just never thought to do, because essentially I would be asking them to hold space for me, but kind of come on the journey with me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that conversations have been slow enough for that to actually happen. It's just like, oh my God, I'm so excited to meet you. Can you sign my book and all these things? So that is more of an invitation to slow things down and invite other people to slow things down as well.
Yeah, you would have to preface before
I would
they
have
do
to.
all of that. And I think that's part of your season of deeper authenticity, right? Because people probably wouldn't be, some people may take that as mean.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for you to even just say that. But I think it's on the other end of you want to be able to be more organic in your connections.
Yeah.
To just from, we talk about it with the date, and I don't know if we're going to get to that on this one. But we tell people from rip, first conversation, first date, or whatever it is, ask them tough questions.
Right.
Because we ain't really got time to waste. And in this age of disconnected connection, it's so difficult to have these real moments with people. We do, to a certain degree, got to kind of cut out the BS and see if you can vibe with me on this level. I'm going to let you know this right now. If you can't vibe, you think I'm mean, at least I know from the rip, and at least I know I gave the authenticity and the honesty I needed to give us the best shot to connect.
Yeah.
And that leads us, I guess, to the conversation of Mean Girls.
Yeah.
Being that you've expressed so much to me, you've talked about on social media, I'm sure in the book, in the new book, that you've often been pegged as the mean girl. We just had a situation recently where that came up again with somebody that you was extremely trying to be helpful to, right? How does that feel to you when we just talked about people not understanding what you may be dealing with in that vetting process and going through your own regulation? But how does that feel to you to consistently be pegged as the mean girl when you just doing your best to navigate all these arenas socially?
Yeah. And I also want to acknowledge, like, I know we have the movie Mean Girls, but we mean a person that just comes across as mean, not necessarily a person who does things intentionally to be mean or vengeful or spiteful. And I've had a few people just say that either I am mean or they think that I'm mean. And people say that they don't know how to approach me. I don't feel approachable.
Let's keep it woman to woman.
Woman to woman. Yeah. Woman to woman.
I haven't heard that from any men that we interact with. And I think this is more so a feminine to feminine energy conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've never been the type of person that's like, oh, I only have male friends. I've never, even though I do have great male friends, I have great women friends as well. So I've never been that person that geared more towards men than I did women. But for whatever reason, there are women who are just like, they think I'm mean. They think I'm standoffish. They think they think I'm hard to approach. And before, it was like, but I didn't do nothing. Like, it was so confusing to me because it was like, you don't even know me. We've had one conversation, if that, and the conversation was probably less than a few minutes. So it was like really confusing to try to figure out what energy am I emitting that's making people feel like I'm mean. But then after I started to, and that used to confuse me. It didn't bother me because, again, my emotional connection to people, I don't have a deep emotional connection to many people. So I didn't really care, but I remembered. And it was something that I just was confused about. But when I started to sit with it a little bit more, it was more like, well, I am really firm when it's time to be firm. So some of my clients may think that I'm mean.
They all say they want to fight her at some point.
Yes. And I just have a spiritual wisdom and discernment that knows when a person needs firm love, when they need to be guided in a firm way. And when I'm passionate about the things that I say, I am firm when I say it. But then let's talk about just me being cool with somebody that just met me.
Where there is no firmness. No need for firmness.
Where
yet,
there's
yeah.
no need for firmness, they will still think that I'm mean. And it's like, well, I'm not the girl's girl. There's a new term where everybody's like, oh, I'm such a girl's girl. That ain't me. So you ain't gonna be just laying on my shoulder, and we ain't gonna be naked in the same room, and all the things that some women do that make them feel closer to one another. It's like teenage girls that have such a beautiful relationship, which I admire and I think is beautiful. But that's just never been my thing. So I feel like when women don't get that girl's girl response from me, that it's confusing to them and they don't know how to receive it. But then another aspect of that is I'm very conscious of the energy that I put off. And to a large degree, everybody is not going to think that or feel comfortable approaching me, because I don't want everybody to feel comfortable approaching me. I don't want everybody to feel like they can just have a piece of me. I don't want everyone to feel like they can be a part of my energy. And I feel like those who don't have any business being a part of my energy pick up on the fact that they are not welcome here. But then those who may be intimidated by my energy pick up on the fact that they don't know if they're welcome here. But if anybody approaches me, I've never been like, get the hell out of my face. When people approach me, I'm always warm. I'm always welcoming. I'm always smiling. I'll invite you to have a business within our business and all kind of things, to where it's showing nice gestures. But for whatever reason, there is a strongness to my energy that I never thought was present, that people are picking up on. And I'm still learning about it to this day.
Let's go to the for whatever reason, right? As you was talking, a few things came up. And I think it has a lot to do with you being on, the opposite end of the spectrum of us kind of functioning outside of the societal norm of what we consider masculine and or feminine energy.
Yeah.
I'm, of course, masculine forward. I'm very in touch with my feminine energy. I take all the simps in the world because I'm going to express what I need to express, whether that's tears on tonight's conversation, whether I need to yell at the N-word, right? Whatever it is, I'm going to be my authentic self. I always reference Pop and people saying how contradictory he was. I felt like he was authentic in whatever space he was in, whether that was Dear Mama, Thug Life, spitting at the camera, whatever he needed to do. On the other end, you are very feminine forward with a lot of masculine balance. Yeah. And I think this is a bigger conversation that ends up trickling into relationships. But before we go to the cross-gender stuff, it seems to be a certain level of expectation.
Absolutely. There's a
woman
lot
to
of
woman,
expectation,
entitlement, social rigidity. And I think there's an overall judgment and fear of women to women when women are in tune and balanced with their feminine energy, just as much as there's a judgment and fear of men who are able to do that in this particular generation. And for you to be able to do some of the things that society would normally say, well, that's a man's job. That's a man's job. And you just, because you are connected to that masculine energy. So when you meet somebody, it isn't just the bubbly and girl, you look good. And yeah, it may be some of that, right. But you're also observant. You're also calculating on a logistical end. Your masculine linearness is doing its checks and balances at the same time, which may not have you super open from rip.
Yeah, it
may need to be like we gonna have to do this maybe a few times before you get that type of energy from me. Yeah. And a lot of women in that space probably tend to get written off in this generation because it's so much fuel on the other end of unbridled feminine energy. You see it with the ratchet TV, the trash TV. That's what y'all engage the most, and I know it's entertaining, but that's for the most part completely unbridled feminine energy without a lot of connection to the masculine component. So what do you feel in reference to that entitlement piece and not respecting women who have that balance?
Yeah, one thing that was told to me by one of your friends, she said, Candyss, you got a lot more masculine energy than you'd like to admit. Yeah. And at the time, I was like, I do? Yeah. But I did a live on this on Instagram where I spoke about how overwhelming it was when women assume that because they are a woman, that we will instantly have a connection. And there is a lot of expectation. And I think a lot of that has to do with the position that I hold and how I teach on social media. So they do expect that. I think because a lot of my message can be considered as positive in the healing community, that I'm going to be just this happy, approachable, energetically spunky person that they interact with. So there's a lot of expectation. And there is a lot of, what's the other word that you used? Entitlement, because when they don't get that, they instantly step back, become, I can't project intimidated. It feels like intimidation to me.
Or at least just judgment.
To where they will completely like shrink and then just say, oh, she's mean or she's unapproachable. Even your son's mom said, you're unapproachable. And I'm like, well,
I don't take no BS.
I don't. Different. And so that is different. There's a lot of things that I'm not going to entertain. And I think to your point, I do have a lot of masculine energy, and I never really looked at it that way. And I think that level of just a firm posture, I'm a firm posture. When I walk into a room, I know that light is on me. I know that those eyes are on me. And only the women who also feel that way don't think of anything that I'm doing is wrong. Like our friend Divine.
Right.
Divine Soul. She picked up on it. She picked up on it immediately. And she was like, hold on, let me feel into who you actually are. She's like, what's your human design? And she found out I was a manifester. And she's like, oh, well, a lot of you being a manifester is you protecting your energy, you not allowing people to have access to your energy, and you having to vet out the people who you give your energy to. And she also showed me and let me know, she was like, there may be some people that instantly get all of you, but it's rare. And then other people you have to fill into based on how your energy resonates with theirs. And one thing that she said to me that was so safe, she's like, girl, we can take it at your pace. We can allow our friendship to just evolve naturally. It doesn't have to be something that's overnight. And I had to tell her how safe that made me feel, because most of the women that I come in contact with, if it's not an instant feminine girl connection, then there's no connection at all. And it's just put off like I'm not approachable, or I'm not able to be connected with. But they don't understand that connection is also earned. I want you to earn my connection, and I also want to earn a connection with you. That means let me see you. I don't want to just hear what you have to say. I want to be able to see who you are, so I know whether or not I feel safe in your presence. And I think it's very irresponsible and really unfair for a person to think that they're going to get all of me, all of the many versions of me, just because we just had one conversation. And these are people that I'm only having one conversation with. These ain't people that I've been knowing for 2 weeks, let alone a year or more. So I think it's really odd that people would think that just because I met you the first time, I'm supposed to get the best impression from you. I'm supposed to get the best version of you. And I'm supposed to get all of the versions that make me feel like I can connect to you instantly. And if I don't feel like I can connect to you instantly, then you're automatically mean or you're unapproachable. I don't think that's fair.
And I think the people, at least from what I've seen, that you have connected to kind of instantly, of course, me being one of those people, it's people that can nurture your manifestive prowess, your manifestive path. Like for me to just sit there and be all bubbly from rip, it takes energy speaking on your behalf to be able to do that. And I got podcasts to create. I got Sasha Flower Skincare. I got books to write. I need to conserve maybe a lot more than other people in different paths may consider that they need to conserve. So I think it's a reflection of what men often experience from unbridled feminine energy that may not be balanced. I don't even think it's a matter of you got all this masculine energy. You have balance. So it's a lot more masculine energy that's probably surging through you and the women that will be able to relate to this than maybe the unbridled feminine energy women, right? But men are kind of dealing with this on the other end, this entitlement, this expectation. I hear a lot of times when I work with my female clients, well, he got this, that, and the third. Why didn't it work? Right? He checked this, that, and the third boxes. Why am I sitting here crying 6 months later?
Right.
And it's that entitlement coupled with the expectation that I should just be able to show up, be a woman, be in my feminine energy, and that should be enough for success in relationships. Mm-hmm. And the other part about, well, how do you nurture my ability to manifest, from woman to woman? A lot of men are forced into manifestive positions, even if that's not their particular path.
That's very true.
Because society says, you the man, you supposed to figure it out. We are both equally manifestive, but my way is a lot more slower. Mm-hmm. My way is a lot more gradual. I'm not going to say intentional. We both intentional. But you just so quick with it, and I got to take my time. So you end up producing and bringing things into fruition a lot faster than me. Even though we kind of equal in our ability to see things, Absolutely. Have vision and all of that, a lot of men are just like, you the man, you got to figure this out. And women will show up in that space. We see all these conversations on 50-50 and y'all just roommates, and a man just supposed to make sure you got everything, that same level of entitlement that I feel like you may experience with women and expectation. Men on the opposite end of that in the actual romantic relationship.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's another aspect of how it's done subtly is if we're both in a room with people and we're quiet, you're like, why are you so quiet?
Right. Right.
They start to have an issue with the fact that you're quiet. And basically what it comes down to is your lack of expression is making them feel uncomfortable.
Because of their energetic entitlement.
And it all has everything to do with them, but they're projecting outwardly instantly. Why are you so quiet? Mm-hmm. I mean, if I were to reverse the question and be like, why do you have an issue with being quiet? So now it's like, instead of just projecting onto the person, I feel like you're mean. Maybe doing some self-analysis to feel like, where did that come from? What wound is possibly coming up, what trauma is coming up, maybe what past event, maybe there's rejection that's coming up that's making the person feel like, oh, I can't have a relationship with you, or you're unapproachable. Instead of just labeling a person as something, do some self-discovery first to find out where that label even came from. I think that's the aspect of what is missing in relationships with people. They feel something, and instead of dissecting and analyzing what they feel, they immediately project it onto the other person as if they're the issue, which makes the other person the villain and then them the saint. And once I know that you're the villain and you're the saint, that person doesn't have to do any internal work. You have to do all the work.
And it goes back to the first video you called to mine, right? The first live I did that she ever saw. Oh, that's about to be my husband, right? The title of the video was "Women Aren't Built for Monogamy."
Yeah.
And I wasn't saying that y'all
video.
not capable of being fidelists and stuff like that. I was just starting to understand via my previous relationships, healing through the heartbreak of the separation of me and my son's mom. I was recognizing how me and so many men had this belief, had this idea of it's never enough, right? No matter how much you give to a woman, she always gonna want more. And I read when I was looking through the notes for these episodes, you had something in your memo on your phone. Women are insatiable, right? Because feminine energy is naturally consumptive. It naturally needs new. And even the feminine energy in men that we don't want to accommodate for or take responsibility for, when he want to just go get that Thunderbird, because he always liked the little Thunderbird cars when he was growing up, and he said, when I get enough money, I'm gonna go ahead and get my Thunderbird. And now he married and he got kids, and he necessarily don't got the money for the Thunderbird just yet, but that feminine, I want that in him, and his masculine nature makes him go sign that contract. He come home and then him and his wife gonna get into it, but I'm keeping my Thunderbird, right? So men have this as well, and to a large degree, the reason that we work so great, and I feel like the most successful couples do have that. Is she just asleep?
Yeah, Cleo is sleeping. All of her teeth
I saw her
showing.
I saw her twitching for a second.
She's probably having a dream.
Okay. Just making sure our daughter in here is good. Yeah. Okay. But the reason I feel like me and you work, like we say all the time, we are the same person. Part of why y'all see us matching is, I know dudes who are like, why you always got a match? Like, come on, bro. like where your Jones at? Like, bro, I appreciate balance in every way, shape, and form. If I'm gonna throw my fit together and I'm with my wife, of course I want that energy to balance itself out. I appreciate homeostasis,
No, that's right.
equilibrium in every aspect of my life. If things get too cluttered, if I don't got space, we was in the car yesterday. She had a bunch of bags from we about to do our Christmas decorating. I know we late, right? We'll get into that in another episode. But I'm just like, yo, I feel cramped, right?
Yeah.
So I think part of why we are so successful and a lot of relationships don't have the level of success we have is because the man will function so much predominantly in his masculine energy all the way over here.
Yeah.
What we kind of speaking about with the feminine, consumptive, entitlement, expectation is all the way over there on that opposite end of the spectrum. And you got so much of a man's man over here, so much of a woman's woman over here. Look at this distance.
Yeah.
Look at this space as opposed to I'm masculine forward, very much so balanced feminine. You are feminine forward, very much so balanced masculine. And now we able to be in concert in so many different ways, shapes, or form. Now I'm with a woman that because of that masculine balance can calculate, can understand this man ain't, financially over the top wealthy, right? I know he's abundant. I know he knows how to allow abundance to come through him as a conduit, but I'm not going to ask this man to, from rip, having a son, I'm working a job, you don't got to pay all my bills.
Absolutely.
I'm okay. I'm Gucci, right?
Right.
That masculine logistical calculation puts you in a position where you don't overconsume from me.
Right.
You don't ask for too much. I've had to coach
point.
you on allowing your feminine. I want that to come more into fruition. But I tell men all the time, like Finesse. Finesse's Club. He posted a post the other day like, women, why y'all don't buy us nothing?
Yeah.
Right. And all the comments was like, oh, you sassy, right? And I put in there.
Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah, I put in there. My wife took me to St. John's second year and was planning it damn near a year in.
Right.
You didn't know I was going to propose to you while we was out there, but it was so much of a balance that you didn't see that as a red flag that I couldn't do that for you first.
Right.
You didn't judge me for the fact that you were doing this for me, and you didn't even need to extrapolate. At some point, you'll be able to do this back. It was like, nah, I want to do this for you. It's your birthday. Let's get it. So I think this conversation of the mean girl thing and women judging women also matriculates into the romantic relationships as well. What you got to that?
I love that point of how that is the aspect of consumption from women and being insatiable, constantly being the woman asking, when you going to pay my bills?
Yeah.
Or how can you add this to my life? Or how can you pay for my nails? I saw a post by actually a girl I went to high school recently, and she was just saying, I went to high school with, and she was just saying how if she's on the phone with a guy in general and she tells them, yeah, I'm going to get my nails done and my hair done, and he doesn't offer to send her money to help her pay for all of her female things, that she instantly gets the ick, don't call her anymore, lose her number forever. And that's a clear example of what you just said, how women are always insatiable, but always wanting to consume, always needing a man to give something and needing them to give more than what they actually need. Because it's one thing if I say I need something from you, but it's emotional care. It's emotional holding space. It is you having the ability to handle something if I need you to handle something, not just because I want you to handle something. There is a insatiable consumption that comes in where I just want you to give to me because I want it. I just want to take from you because I want it. And then when it's time to have an equal energy exchange and me pour something back into you, you sassy. Or you aren't man enough to handle a woman like me, or you aren't the top tier man that I would like you to be. I think that's extremely unfair. It's almost kind of insanity to project. If you cannot meet the needs of me, then it got to be something wrong with you, which goes back to the mean girl situation. If I don't feel comfortable approaching you, then it must be something wrong with you. It's a person that is refusing to take or take accountability and to acknowledge that this is for me to own. If I want my nails done, I want my hair done, that's for me to do. And if a person can't do that, or if a person isn't offering that, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the person. You need to take a look at the fact, why do you constantly want something from somebody? And then if they cannot provide that thing for you, why are they automatically the bad guy? Why is there no self-discovery on you taking accountability for the things that you want versus the things that you actually need? Because there's many things that you can provide to a person that go outside of the monetary value. There's many things that I can provide to a person that don't require me to give my all in the first conversation. So there's a level of unnecessary expectation that it seems like people are having and they're refusing to acknowledge
Yeah,
that.
and there's a few things to that as we wrap up. As I was listening to you, you know what that sound like?
What?
A tapeworm.
A parasite.
A parasite, right? Women, and it's not all women, right? I feel like women are starting to more so break away from the paradigms, just like men on the opposite end of the spectrum. But the voices that are really loud is what you hear from the unbalanced, unbridled feminine energy. And it produces the self-sabotage that's on the single scene, right? Because you may putting out the vibration, the APB as a woman, I want it all. He got to pay for everything. He got to be able to send me money just to be able to go on a date with me and then pay for the date. Like all these different things we hear. And you may send out the APB energetically and attract some of that. But that's not balance. A man that's going to show up in that space is often not going to be balanced with his feminine component to be able to provide other things. He usually will have put a lot of energy to manifesting money, financial, material, and he's great at that to be able to accommodate those things. But that's why they end up in counseling sessions with me 6 months down the line. He done put his hands on you.
Yeah, because money is all they had to offer.
Exactly. A year in, he's emotionally defunct and unavailable, right? Or unintelligent. Or he tries to force me to do different things. Yes, because you are sending a vibration out that this is what's most important to me. And it's also coupled with the vibration that I don't appreciate balance maybe as much as I need to. And then it shows up in ways that's not just monetary. Women who are over-consumptive emotionally. Meaning there's an expectation, you the man in my life, especially when they get with brothers that do have some level of feminine balance and we are able to navigate our emotions, there's almost an expectation, you need to carry my emotions for me. It don't matter how many days out of the month. I remember I asked you one time, how many days out of the month you feel like you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? And you was like 2 or 3, and you felt like that was a lot. I'm like, bruh, most of these men are dealing with women that half the month, if not more, is waking up on the wrong end of the bed, expecting him to just deal with it, move around it, circumvent it, navigate through it, and still go get the bag, and still not feel a way about it, and still not being able to engage with his woman sexually. I mean, because we got to talk about the other end of the spectrum. We always advocate for women being able to say, not right now. But if you're dealing with a woman that's so bogged down by her own emotions and expecting that man to just deal with it, this is where you have 6 months, year, 2 years. I'm not going to say who it was, but one of my good male friends, they got pregnant. They ain't have sex for 3 years. Yeah. And he's doing all this other stuff while navigating her emotions. So it's not just the monetary over consumptive energy. It shows up in so many different ways through our relationships.
Yeah. That's the female unbridled energy, like you said. And I think it really comes down to people really making it a practice to take self-accountability, to do self-discovery, and not just to the point to where it's like, am I wrong or are they wrong? But really going deeper to analyze what is coming up for me and why is it coming up? What is the root of what is coming up? Where does it stem from? Before we start to project, before we start to expect, giving ourselves permission to dissect our own demons and find out what they're feeding on, and really starting to pay attention to what projection is, what it looks like, and how it shows up within you as an individual. I don't think a lot of people are clear on what projection is and how they do it, how they project, and how it shows up in their daily behaviors. And I think if people were to start acknowledging those things, dissecting those demons, and finding out what they're feeding on, they really will have more of an opportunity to relate to people, to have relationship with people, because it won't just be based on what they need and what they're not getting.
And I think in closing, asking yourself that question, am I the tapeworm?
Absolutely.
Am I the parasite? Am I the host enabling the tapeworm or the parasite? We want to be right in that middle ground, in that symbiotic relationship with either a platonic friend, a romantic partner, whatever it may be. Investigate where you are on that timeline. And we kind of just freestyle the whole episode.
Yeah, and that's also with knowing how much of yourself to give.
Absolutely.
That matters. Knowing how, as a man, especially, as a woman, and especially, knowing how much of yourself to give, knowing how far you're willing to go, knowing what you're willing to entertain, and knowing what isn't allowed to have access to your energy, what isn't allowed to impede on your energetic field. That matters. That's really self-care. So, because a lot of people will be parasites, and if you don't acknowledge them as parasites, they gonna keep doing what parasites do, taking. And we have to have those firm energetic boundaries that show people this is as far as I'm willing to go, and this is as far as you have permission to go.
And last thing, being that you said that, we talking about symbiotic relationships. We also talking about how the whole world, the whole planet, and all of us are cells in it, and what we do, the decisions we make affect the collective.
Yeah.
As a man, just because I got it don't mean she's supposed to have it.
Right.
And outside of what that's going to do to protect my own energy and my peace until she proves herself worthy and we aligned in that way, that's also, by me drawing that line in the sand, that's also sending a message out to the rest of the cells. And I feel like men are starting to step up in this way because we tired. If I can cut you off at the pass and the opposite end of the spectrum, men wanting too much and too much sex and all this other stuff, if we can start to draw these lines personally, it starts to improve the piss that's in the dating pool that everybody keep talking about, if we can make these decisions on an individual level.
And just to reiterate, like you just said, when people are like, oh, you're unapproachable, what they're filling into is an energetic boundary.
Exactly.
Some people can't approach me because that boundary lets them know that they aren't able to, they don't have permission to.
Absolutely.
So I think that goes towards your point.
We just freestyled a whole episode. If y'all can see this board, we'll get to it at a certain point. It's completely different from where we just went, but that's also part of the balance, being a conduit, allowing source to be able to flow through you in whatever way. Even if you got your stuff prepared, God laughs at our plans. He just laughed at this, but I feel like this was a fire episode. And with that being said, we just wrapped up.
God is me again episode.
So we ain't gonna put the numbers on it because we don't know when he's gonna roll out. Tell them what to do.
Like, comment, subscribe. This is how you can really support us, y'all. We need all of your interaction. Interaction helps so much. You can order my book, Remember Who the F You Are, by Candyss Love, on my website, CandissLove.com. And what can they do with you? Y'all
can download Daddy Issues from all streaming platforms. My new single, my album, Yes, All Wounds Eventually Heal. Yahweh is on the way. Book of Buddha. Check out the video on YouTube. And as far as this particular podcast, make sure y'all on every platform, or at least just the one you on, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, like, favorite, comment, share, subscribe, and join us every Wednesday as we will have our dual IG and YouTube real open community talk to dig deeper into what we just talked about in this episode. Make sure y'all pull up, DM us if y'all need to know the time. And yeah, man, another one is in the books.
Bye.
Peace. Hit me up for counseling too, y'all. We both accepting new clients. So one-on-ones, familial counseling, relationship counseling. I do the relationship, but one-on-ones are her end. Hit us up for that as well, y'all. Peace.
Bye.